Something I've been thinking about lately is how bold people have gotten with strangers on the internet. Folks will type the nastiest, most unhinged things that you've ever seen in somebody's comment section to somebody they've never met before, they've never seen. And the confidence behind some of these people are insane because they truly believe that every person that they interact with on the internet is calm, patient, unbothered, an individual who is going to take shit to the chin and ignore them and log off. But be fucking for real for a moment. You don't know these people from a can of paint. You don't know their temperament, their history, or what kind of fucking day they're having, let alone the era of their healing journey, if they are even in one. But y'all will talk to strangers like the internet is full of monks. It blows my mind. Meanwhile, some folks grew up in households where confrontation was Saturday morning tradition. Some people don't avoid tension at all. They stretch. They get ready for that shit. But every single day, whether it is a real profile or is a fake profile with no profile picture, no PFP, people will roll the dice and talk crazy to people, forgetting that they're speaking to an actual human being that just might respond to their ass immediately, aggressively, or creatively, if you will. And when that happens, the moments are priceless. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Everything is Onions, where we peel back the onions of life one layer at a time. Deep conversations, raw truths, and no tears. Well, mostly. I'm your new favorite host, Koko. Thank you to all my returning listeners. You know I love y'all down. If you're new here, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss a single layer we peel back. Today, we're peeling into why people feel so bold talking crazy to strangers on the internet. Now, let's get into the first peel, because the way that people talk to strangers online has gotten out of fucking hand. It's gotten out of pocket. Okay? Somewhere along the way, people have convinced themselves that typing something means that it's absolutely harmless. Like the moment you hit send on a post or a comment, that it magically becomes detached from real life. And because of that little tiny fantasy, they say things that they would never let their mouth form around another human being. They would never say that shit to somebody in real life. But here's the mistake that people keep making. You do not know who the fuck you are talking to on the internet. You do not know their background. You don't know their threshold. You definitely don't know how confrontational they are by nature. You don't know these people from a can of fucking paint. Again, people see a creator on their For You page and automatically assume that this person is zen, grounded, praying, potentially on their healing journey. Maybe some people are holding on to everyday life by a fucking thread, a thin ass thread at that. And the wildest part is that people talk crazy from these fake pages or blank pages, or again, from a page that they think people can't find them from. Like everybody on the receiving end of their comments is a fucking customer service representative. Like everybody is going to respond to them as if they are at work and the customer is always right. Meanwhile, that stranger might be someone who grew up in a household where, again, confrontation is their first fucking language. They speak that shit very well. They might be someone who absolutely does not mind addressing things head on. They might be someone who has no issue matching the disrespect that you thought was going to sit quietly and be ignored in their notifications. The internet makes people forget humanity is unpredictable, not just dangerous, but again, unpredictable. You do not know if the person you just insulted is having the worst week of their fucking year, or somebody is having the kind of day that might push them from ignoring your comment to, yeah, let me pull up on this bitch. Let me take this shit straight to fucking hell. And every time somebody gets shocked by someone's reaction, I'd be sitting there thinking, what the fuck did you expect? You gambled with a stranger's temperament and you fucking lost. You miscalculated, boo. And now you have talked yourself into a situation that you simply cannot walk yourself out of. All right? Now, let's get into the messy middle. Let's start with the TikTok that sparked me even talking about this because that situation exposed a lot of things. There was a woman on TikTok that drove 3 hours 3 hours away from home, not to fight, not to act down fool, not to embarrass herself, but simply to calmly confront a man who was leaving nasty, hateful, racist comments under her video. Okay. And when this woman showed up to this man's job, all that talking crazy, the same energy that he had in her comments was out the fucking door. It was out the window. And I highly doubt that it had anything to do with her confronting that man at his job, as opposed to that man being completely taken aback that a random ass woman that he said some ignorant ass shit to on the internet actually drove her ass from where she was to where he was to confront that man head the fuck on. And the part that sent me into orbit was the fact that she said, you see how easy it was for me to find you? you, you see how easy it was for me to find you? I think out of the whole video, that was the quietest he was. Because in his mind, he was really sitting there thinking like, damn, this lady on TikTok really just pulled the fuck up on me. Yes, she did. Yes, friend. Yes, she did. You could literally hear the cowardice, the quivering in his voice. You could hear once she started talking to him and once she was addressing that situation to a man that she didn't know head on in real time in his motherfucking face. In that moment, he realized that she was not just some random person on TikTok. She was not an avatar. She was not a fake page. She was an actual person who could talk, walk, and pull up at his motherfucking job. And honestly, that was really what stood the fuck out to me was the fact that people have gotten so used to talking reckless, talking crazy online that they genuinely forget that a real human being is on the receiving end of your comments. I'm pretty sure when he pressed in on that comment, he thought she would just scroll past it, ignore it, maybe cry about it, maybe make a response video. Never in a fucking million years did that man ever think, yeah, this lady on TikTok, this random ass lady that I don't even know, is gonna pull up to my motherfucking job and confront me. What never crossed his mind was the possibility that her simply showing up to his job and saying, apologize before I tell your wife about your secret grinder account. I am 1,000% sure. I would bet my bottom dollar, I would bet every dollar that I have that he never thought that that woman was going to pull up on him and confront him in the way that she did. And it wasn't the confrontation that shocked his ass, it was a reminder that his words weren't floating around in space. They were not floating around in the internet somewhere. They landed on somebody who was a real person. And that also leads me to what I said on my own TikTok right before this video dropped is this idea that confrontation is lowbrow or uneducated is cute until you meet somebody who doesn't give a fuck about anything being lowbrow. Some of the people don't even know what the fuck lowbrow means. If we're being fucking honest, if we're gonna call a spade a spade, people love to preach about taking the high road, and they simply forget that that is not everybody's wiring. That's not everybody's genetic makeup. Some people grew up in households where if you had a problem, you addressed it immediately, not in the group chat, not with your therapist, not in a fucking journal, not 6 months later, but right then and there. Some people, confrontation is their native language. They're not triggered by it, they're not scared of it, they're quite literally comfortable in the state of confrontation. They like that shit, actually. Every time I get on the internet and I say shit, like, I will absolutely read somebody for filth, but I will absolutely slap your ass blind. People love to miscommunicate that. They think that I'm talking shit, where again, there are plenty of people who do not realize that me and my brother used to beat the shit out of each other as kids. WWE SmackDown Celebrity Deathmatch had absolutely nothing on me and my little brother. So when I say shit like I will slap you blind, I absolutely mean it. I'm not afraid of confrontation. If anything, I'm going to give you what you give me. So a thing I love to say is if you come at me at the side of your neck, I'm coming at the crack of my fucking ass. I'm coming at the crack of my ass. My mom hates that I say that shit, but it's the fucking truth. Again, you come out the side of your neck at me, I'm coming out the crack of my fucking ass because that's what I'm used to. I love confrontation. Again, might not have been my first strong suit as a child, but as a grown ass adult, yeah, I will absolutely slap your two front teeth down your throat if you try me like that. And that's why, again, I said in my TikTok in response to a man who basically said it's lowbrow, it's uneducated to argue and fight with people. Just because you think something is lowbrow or you think something is beneath you, absolutely does not mean that the person that you might be arguing with or saying something crazy to thinks that that's lowbrow. You could be speaking their language, quite literally. Even though y'all may not be speaking the same language, you could be absolutely tapping into somebody's crazy by talking crazy to them. Again, that's why I said you cannot judge someone's reaction through your own lens of maturity because the world is not full of people who just love to turn the other cheek. I don't know where people have gotten this reality or this concept of reality that there are no consequences to the things that you say, the consequences and repercussions that people like to think that don't exist on the internet, but it does. People forget that concept. They talk crazy to strangers under the guise or the assumption that this stranger is quiet or soft or meek or non confrontational. But sometimes you are talking to somebody who grew up with siblings that fought over fucking cereal. They will absolutely DDT you over the TV remote. Me and my brother used to fight over the Nintendo controller. Being a keyboard warrior and typing nonsense, whether it's a comment section, whether it's a post, repost, whatever. The typing these things gives people a false sense of safety. They do not see that person's face when they read it. They don't see the shift in body language. They don't feel that shift in somebody's energy when they're reading those comments. But again, people love to play with people on the internet. In the last year, I've gotten some of the nastiest, most vile, hateful comments that I've ever received in my time being on the internet. But I realized that people start believing that their words don't hit anybody, that they don't hurt anybody. They think that their sentence or their comments are just floating somewhere with no impact. But comments do not disappear. They actually do land. And when they land on the wrong person, the illusion of safety disappears very quickly. People love to act like insulting someone online is damn near the equivalent as like yelling at the TV. But I think what people are missing or what they're not realizing is the fact that you're not talking to a fictional character. You're not talking to somebody on a fucking TV. You're talking to an actual human being who might be irritated, confrontational, emotional, pissed off, or just fed the fuck up in general. And people love to throw rocks and hide their hands and say shit like, oh, I didn't think they were going to respond to me. When you believe that when you say something in people's comments that nothing will happen, you will say anything. And that is the root of the issue. The assumption that typing something excuses you from the responsibility of someone's reaction. I will never get it. What stood out to me the most with that whole TikTok situation was how different the energy was in real life compared to how he was talking in those comments online. On the internet, he was bold and hateful and racist and aggressive. He was typing like he was fucking Billy Badass. But face to face, he was a coward. You could hear the scarcity in his voice. You could hear how quiet, how non confrontational he was. If anything, he was polite to this woman, apologizing. We couldn't see his view, but I'm pretty sure he couldn't even look that woman in her eyes. And that is the part that people do not like to acknowledge. The internet puts a battery in people's back that they do not carry in real fucking life. They use social media as their outlet because it lets them put on and perform a personality that they do not actually possess. Online, they're loud, they're boisterous, they're tough, they're angry and unstoppable. But in person, they quit the fold every single time. Most of the people talking the wildest shit online wouldn't bust a fucking grape in Welch's backyard. They would not defend themselves in a grocery store argument. There are plenty of niggas who be popping it in my fucking comments, but would let a man skip them in the fucking barbershop. They won't even stand up for themselves. They won't even correct someone in their own fucking house. But behind that screen, suddenly they got balls of steel. Suddenly they're fucking Thor. They think they're gonna snap their fucking hands and everybody's out of there. And that's the furthest thing from the fucking truth. That's why these confrontations are so jarring. Not because this woman pulled up on somebody, but because the person who was so bold in these comments suddenly couldn't back up any of the shit he was typing. That man was writing paragraphs. He was saying again hateful, racist shit in that woman's comment. But in person, he was trembling. He was shook. He was scared, honey. That's the gag. That's the fucking gag. The persona online is inflated. The real person behind these keys simply is not built like that. Period. The reason why people talk so wild online is because of distance. That distance makes people feel untouchable. When you are sitting in your house on your fucking couch or in your bed, typing to someone that you've never fucking met, it creates a false sense of protection. In your mind, you're telling yourself, oh, they can't see me. They can't reach me. They don't know who I am. They can't check me. Well, again, you see how easy it was for me to find you? You see how easy it was for me to find you? See how easy it was for me to jump in my car and make these 3-hour fucking drive and pull up at your job, bitch? Oh, oh, okay. You see how easy that was? As much as people think that they have fucking anonymity online, you really don't, boo. There's a paper trail for fucking everything. You can do all that hooting, hollering, and yelling behind these fake profiles, but I guarantee you, there's somebody on the internet that if they wanted to find you, bitch, they gonna find your ass. They ain't got no problem finding you. Then that false distance gives people in their minds permission to be the worst version of themselves online because they feel as though there are going to be no consequences or repercussions. They will push boundaries that they would never test in public. They provoke strangers on the internet as if the reactions that they get are not real. And again, here's the truth: distance does not erase consequences, it just delays them. That is, again, why people get on the internet saying, typing all kinds of crazy ass shit. And then you wonder why you got fired from your job on Monday because everybody on TikTok didn't leak your information, they didn't dox you. And you thought the little comment that you left on somebody's page didn't really mean that fucking much, and now you're out of a job. Now you're out of a fucking job. Wow. That guy thought he could say anything to that woman because there was distance and miles in between them, which To his knowledge, I'm pretty sure he didn't know where the fuck that lady was. That's neither here nor there. But again, he still said something to that woman because in his mind, he cannot conceptualize the fact that this woman was ever going to pull up on him. But when she closed that distance, when reality snapped in, when she pulled up on his ass, that polite, soft spoken apology that he gave, because that was one thing that she said, apologize. I love that she said, apologize to me. Apologize before I tell your wife about that secret grinder account you got. Now it's, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave that. I'm so sorry. I'm so, I'm so sorry. Wow. That was the real him. You thought you could get your ass online and say anything to anybody, and again, there were going to be no consequences and repercussions. That being the real him, that is exactly who he has always been. And the only thing powering the attitude he had in that woman's comment section was the idea of separation between the two. Okay? Follow me. People forget that disrespect does not dissolve just because you typed it. It still lands somewhere. And if you landed on the wrong person, the distance that you relied on becomes a non motherfucking factor real quick. I don't know why we have not grasped that concept yet, but at the end of the day, it does not matter whether you say it online, under your breath, behind somebody's back. There are always consequences and repercussions to the actions that you have, to the words that come out of your motherfucking mouth. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Now let's get into our last segment. No tears, just truths. The truth is, confrontation isn't the real threat here. The real threat is miscalculating who the fuck you're dealing with. People talk to strangers online like they know this person in real life. Like this is their friend, their cousin, somebody that they know. They know their temperament. Like they know how this person is going to respond. Like the disrespect comes with the automatic get out of jail free card. And I will never understand that. But you do not get to choose how someone reacts to being violated. I don't know if you've never heard that before, but you don't get to choose how people react to your actions. You do not get to decide what should or should not bother them. You do not get to dictate their tone, their boundaries, or their threshold for disrespect. You don't. And that's where people keep setting themselves up. They move reckless and crazy and assume that the reaction will be soft. They assume that everything is going to be okay. They throw rocks and hide their hands and then expect for people to treat them with kindness and with grace and take the high road. They push people's buttons and convince themselves it won't lead anywhere. That is not maturity, that is delusion. Because the truth is, you don't know who's on the receiving end of what you are saying. You do not know their background, their temperament, their upbringing, or their mental capacity. You do not know if they are passive, passive aggressive, 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 passive. You don't know what the fuck they are. Or if they are the type to drive 3 hours and pull up to your job and say, bitch, apologize. Folks keep forgetting that grown adults have full autonomy. They do not owe you their silence just because you're more comfortable when they don't respond. They don't owe you restraint when you didn't show any. They don't owe you grace that you did not earn, sister. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. The gag is the reaction to your actions is not the problem. The problem is the arrogance of assuming that there wouldn't be one. That's the piece everybody wants to skip over that, goes over everybody's head. So here's the truth with no tears. If you are bold enough to dish something out, you need to be prepared for whatever the fuck comes back tenfold. Not what you prefer to come back, but what actually comes back to you like a boomerang. Because once you cross a line, the response belongs to the other person, not your imagination. It's not meant to make you feel comfortable. Once you put whatever you put out there in the world, you have to be ready to receive whatever it is that you're going to get in return. All right, y'all. Before we go, let me just say this. Talk to people like they're real, because they are. If you wouldn't say it to someone standing 3 feet in front of them, ask yourself why your fingers feel so confident saying it. Some of y'all don't need a new mindset. You need to stop underestimating strangers. Plain and simple. This has been another episode of Everything is Onions. If you made it this far, thanks for listening again. I'm your favorite host, Koko, just a girl with a mic and a million thoughts. And if this episode hit home for you, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, or send this to anyone who needs to hear it. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. I love you guys. Bye.